Hemingway said it was easy. All you have to do is sit at your typewriter and bleed. Why I write. I stole this line from Joan Didion, and Joan Didion stole this line from George Orwell. Why I write. Joan Didion was particularly infused with the repeated I that can be found in the three words, why I write. And that's what writing is all about. You, the writer. Who are you in relation to the world? Write like nobody will read it, because you aren't writing for others. You are writing for yourself. Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I wanted to discuss why we write. And this is mostly because I wanted to remind myself why I do it. But also, maybe it will help you too. Why is it such a valuable thing to do? And I truly, truly believe it is. We live in a really fast-paced world, and I think writing allows us to slow down and allows us to reflect. And writing isn't about how good you are with words. It isn't about grammar or forming the perfect sentence. It's an art form. It's an art form personal to you and your perception of the world. It's about telling stories, your stories. We are natural-born storytellers. Using this skill, flexing this muscle, allows us to be more connected with ourselves and also with our surroundings. To not just simply consume, but to create. But to create for yourself. And there's always that possibility that that creation will touch someone else too. But relieve yourself of that idea of prying eyes, because the art isn't about someone else. It isn't about external validation. It's about you, the writer. How do you see the world? What is your story? And just let go of your inhibitions and let the words just roll off your tongue, out of your hand and onto the page. Writing is always about coming back to yourself. Who were you when you wrote the line, "On a dark and stormy night"? Where do these words take you? And perhaps that isn't the dark and stormy night, but a spring morning. The smell of fresh coffee washing the air, the sunlight dancing with the shadow of a houseplant, and the promise of a new day. With your pen in hand, you draw the outline of the words, "On a dark and stormy night." I recently read the book The Wall, and when I think of the wall, my mind takes me to two places. Yes, of course, it takes me to the Austrian mountains, surrounded by only animal companions. But it also takes me to my flat, above the city of London, a cloudy day, cold feet on wooden floor. The Wall is set in Austria. It's about a woman who finds herself completely alone in the world when she wakes up one day in her friend's log cabin in the Austrian mountains. To her surprise, her shock, her horror, a wall, an invisible wall, has been erected. Behind the wall is a world completely frozen. She realizes, to her knowledge, she is the only human left in the world unaffected by this erected wall. And she begins to record her days as a way of keeping sane. I can allow myself to write the truth. All the people for whom I have lied throughout my life are dead. Obviously, this is an extreme case. Truly, in her case, nobody will read these words. There is nobody left to read these words. But writing like nobody will read your words allows you to write a truth, your truth, to break down that invisible wall that you've put up, to soften judgment, to write something with real meaning, something authentic and from the heart, to concentrate on the flowering pear tree and to articulate the particular way the petals fall to the floor. This is not a test, but an honesty and a freedom, curving words into meaning, into your truth. Now, you don't need to have a plethora of fancy words, though I will use the word plethora because I enjoy the way it rolls around the tongue. And this is a personal preference. Like many writers, I have only this one subject, this one area, the act of writing. I am not a scholar. I'm not in the least an intellectual, wrote Didion. To write is to make sense of the world, to figure out something for yourself, to bask in the light of you. Let's, for the sake of this essay, reject the intellectual. Let's reject the theory of linguistics. Let's leave that to the academics, the intellectuals, and let's just write. And now you don't need to be a good writer. You don't even need to be a bad writer, but just be a writer. The act of writing is an act of freedom, using the tools of language to mark your place in time. The sentences you write are an ode to your mind, who you were, who you are. When you look at an empty field, is it eerie, sinister, or is it warm and welcoming? Who are you in relation to that field? Go ahead, arrange these words. Talk to yourself, tell yourself, converse with yourself about the sinister, the warm, the mundane. Didion talks about pictures in her mind in the essay Why I Write. She imagines them shimmering and speaking to her in such a way that she has to record them. And the image might be as simple as a white space, which she has described as an image she saw when writing Play It As It Lays. Seeing can also be in the mind's eye, but don't think, just write. Let the image develop. A sentence like a lens into that world of shimmering images. It tells you, you don't tell it. Writing is about facing who you are. It can leave those who fear this completely crippled, unable to scribble down a single note. And yet it is also true that one can write nothing readable unless one constantly struggles to efface one's own personality. Good prose is like a window pane. George Orwell said this in his essay, Why I Write. I have a confession, one I'm not proud to admit, and it's a confession of judgment. And I tell you this because I'm writing like nobody will read this. So you can see, yes, you, the writer of these words, the owner of these thoughts. How could I say all this without a truthful confession? Without an honesty, I write like nobody will read it. And to finish this video, I have a beautiful quote from The Fisherman's Daughter, written by Ursula K. Le Guin, one of my favorite writers. And I will find the book. I have it right here. She writes about how writing gives you control. It establishes yourself in a mood, in a time. And here's what she says. The one thing a writer has to have is a pencil and some paper. That's enough, so long as she knows that she and she alone is in charge of that pencil and responsible, she and she alone, for what it writes on the paper. In other words, that she's free. Not wholly free, never wholly free, but maybe very partially. Maybe only in this one act, this sitting for a snatched moment, being a woman writing, fishing the mind's lake, but in this responsible, in this autonomous, in this free. And yeah, it's in this book, Space Crone by Ursula K. Le Guin. Highly recommend checking this out. There are tons of essays in here about writing, and Le Guin is one of the best writers I know. So, yes. Thank you so much if you made it this far into the video. I will see you all again next time.